Nothing drives positive health outcomes like patient engagement. An engaged patient is informed and can become an equal partner in creating a healthcare treatment strategy, working with their healthcare providers to create a smooth, seamless healthcare journey. Here to talk about how GoodRx works to improve patient engagement, Divya Iyer, VP of Strategy and Business Development at GoodRx, and Audrey Kresmer, Director of Strategy and Operations. Hi, Divya.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Audrey.
Hi.
All right, thanks for joining me here today. We're going to be talking about improving patient engagement, and Divya, my first question is for you. Divya, GoodRx Health is a one-stop shop for both patients and for pharma marketers, because what's good for the patient is good for the pharma marketer too, right? What's that all about? How have you done this?
Yeah, I love that question, Steve. Over the last decade or so that GoodRx has been around, we've built an end-to-end ecosystem with both consumers and providers on the platform. So we have a little over a third of the US population that comes to our website, and we have about 900,000 providers. So for pharma, from a pharma marketing perspective, they can reach both consumers and providers on our platform. I don't believe there's any other platform where they could do that at scale. So that's one piece of it. And then as we think about our end-to-end ecosystem, we've got top of funnel solutions that's our health business. So Audrey's our health expert here. And we've done a great job in building curated content that's patient friendly, drives deep engagement and education for patients. We've got our drug page, which is more bottom of funnel, very high intent audience. We can immediately drive conversion through the drug page. We've got our provider mode, where we have created a bespoke solution or experience for providers. We have telemedicine. So all of these assets or solutions put together create that one-stop shop for pharma where they can reach different audiences, patients and providers at different parts of their healthcare journey and so on.
So let's talk about GoodRx Health and the patient, Audrey. Like, what is it about this that makes it so valuable to a patient?
I think the way we look at GoodRx Health is that we want to fit into the patient or the consumer's life flow. You know, on the provider side, we talk about creating solutions that fit into their workflow. On the consumer side, we want to be part of their day-to-day. We want to make it easy for them to just get the answers when they need it, where they need it. And so with GoodRx Health, you know, just one example, this morning on the morning news, they were talking about how high pollen is right now. I think we're all experiencing it, or at least I can say that for myself. And when we think about our consumers and being able to provide the best answers to their healthcare questions, we want to meet them where they're looking for answers. And so say somebody turns to Google, maybe they're a long-time allergy sufferer, maybe this is their first time given the high pollen, they're typing into Google, taking the wrong allergy medicine. I'm not feeling relief, am I doing something wrong? The first article that pops up is a GoodRx Health article, and it's comparing different allergy medications. So again, we're just looking to meet the consumer where they are, and typically that starts with Dr. Google, you know, where they're just looking for answers to their questions.
Winning on search.
Yeah.
That's great. Divya, there's a kind of a phrase that's making the rounds in medical marketing space now about the patient being the payer. How does GoodRx Health help that?
Yeah, over the last few years, we've seen a greater share of the cost burden being borne by the patient. So you have high deductible health plans, right? More than 50% of commercially insured lives are on a high deductible plan, and that's growing at almost a double-digit CAGR. So you have patients bearing the cost burden, which is why now they're the payer, right? And they expect more from the healthcare system when they're the payer. They want transparency. They want to know how much each thing costs. They want the kind of experience that they have in other aspects of their life when they're making a shopping decision or a situation where they're paying, right? Like an Amazon-like experience that we all hear about. And so I think GoodRx is an important part of that puzzle where the patient is now the payer, is looking for information, is looking for answers, and GoodRx is that trusted platform that they go look up at that critical point when they're looking to make a decision or looking to learn more about a drug or a condition.
GoodRx has built an amazing platform. And like we said earlier, you win on search, which is half the battle. What lessons have you learned from building this platform about how to create content that's specific for the patients, how to engage them, and maybe most importantly, how to get them to come back?
I think, we had a great platform to build off of. So GoodRx is a name brand. We're the Kleenex of healthcare, or at least digital healthcare tool in a way. We have that brand equity, but with that, we need to not only engage the users, but like you said, get them to come back and retain them and ensure that we're continuing along the journey with them as they go through their own evolution in healthcare. And so with that, we're looking at one thing we're really focused on the platform is best next action. How can we predict where users want to go? How can we get them into the site with winning on organic search, but then predict that next best action for them, which might be taking action on actually moving forward with receiving a coupon. Maybe it's predicting what article is going to be most helpful to serve up to them next so that they can not only answer that first question that they came to the site for, but maybe knock out 4 or 5 all within the same session. And I think in my time since joining GoodRx, I've also have been really proud of the brand equity and the brand strength. And with that comes not only the engagement, but the referrals. Even just wearing a GoodRx t-shirt out and about in my normal life, people are coming up like, I love GoodRx. Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you about how my 79-year-old mom tells all of her friends and pulls up her laptop and helps them save on prescriptions. And it all feeds back together, right? It's the entire power of the platform, like Divya mentioned, where we can bring users from the content to the actionable, being able to engage and receive coupons to save on their medication, be able to give the same information to the provider. And so everyone's having that same conversation and has that same empowered information that they can use to the best of their ability on whatever is their next best action.
Why is trust so important for both for you as a content creator, but also for your customers who would be marketers?
There's a couple different ways that comes into play. I would say first and foremost, our editorial team is comprised of the leading industry experts across physicians and pharmacists and financial experts. And so we're ensuring that the content that we're putting out there is accurate and credible. And with that, anything that has any sort of medical mention is going to go through a stringent medically reviewed process. And then we are constantly updating our library. We're trying to make sure all the thousands and thousands of pieces that we have out there are always updated within the last 2 years, if not sooner, so that we're always serving up the most accurate and reliable information to our users. And then with trust also comes going back to that engagement piece. If our users trust us, and I'm proud to say GoodRx has an NPS of 90, which is unheard of in the healthcare space.
That's a really high trust score.
It's really high, especially when you look at healthcare. And I think with pharma, that's a way for them to partner with us and really be able to, we can lend our trust and our credibility and our engagement, and they can bring their expertise on their brands. And it's a win-win-win. It's a win for pharma, it's a win for GoodRx, and it's a win for our consumers, which is ultimately who we're serving.
Divya, what do you think that your customers, patients, need from pharma companies, and what are the pharma companies doing to address that?
Yeah, so a couple things. So there is a lot of volume of information out there, and then there's also a lot of misinformation. So I think we just talked about GoodRx's brand and trust, and leveraging that to get the right information across to patients is the number one thing. Beyond that, we also have solutions that help drive access and adherence. So the health piece is the education and the awareness, right? But then pharma marketers can also use us to drive access and adherence and empower and enable patients to get on therapy. So they can read about the drug, they can read about how to manage the condition in a trusted environment from people that they trust, right? And then they can figure out how to get on drug, which pharmacy it's available at, how much it's going to cost, and so on. And then we also have CRM and other tools that allow us to further engage that patient, and check in maybe after 30 days. Hey, you got a coupon 30 days ago. It might be time for a refill, right? Things like that. So I think we have this entire suite of solutions that we've built out over the last 3 years that help brands not just amplify what they already have in the market, but also create new solutions for their specific brands.
And if I might add, I think one thing we can also do is just help with the education and take a level up with respect to when we're so close to it, it's sometimes hard to see do our users even know what a copay program is? We have an article on GoodRx Health about what are manufacturer copay cards, and it sees significant traffic month over month. So we need to be able to ensure that we're answering those questions so then users can move forward and act.
Well, that's really important because increasingly patients are having conversations about the prices of prescriptions with their physicians. What would you suggest to a consumer who thinks, I'm going to have the talk, the cost conversation with my HCP? What would you suggest they talk about? How do they handle it?
I think it's important to go in prepared. So you get limited time with your physician, the physician's busy, and you want to maximize it and optimize your appointment. But I also understand as a consumer myself that consumers are busy. And so to put that burden on the patient to just, have to spend time getting prepared for an appointment is also really difficult. But what we're trying to do at GoodRx Health is actually aid and assist in having those conversations. So just this year we've launched doctor discussion guides on our site as a way for a consumer to, at their fingertips, be able to download or save a doctor discussion guide that they can then go into their appointment with, and it's covering all stages of the journey. So they can, whether they're newly diagnosed, whether they're looking to switch medications, whether they're concerned about the cost, they have a guide that's readily available with, questions that we would recommend asking in your appointment that they can go in and speak to the doctor about, and it can provide that more fruitful conversation between the physician and the patient, maximize the time. And with pharma, I know pharmaceutical manufacturers have these amazing doctor discussion guides out there on their site, but it's whether or not the user knows where to look for it. It's kind of that I don't know what I don't know. And so with GoodRx, what they can actually do is house that on our GoodRx platform. Again, we have the audience, they're coming to us for questions and they're coming to us for answers. Why not put that on our GoodRx site, reach that targeted audience that they're trying to, and ultimately be able to assist both consumers and providers.
What advice would you have for a pharma marketer whose reps are having a hard time getting access to HCPs, and yet they still want to reach a target audience at scale?
I can sympathize and empathize greatly. I actually started my career in medical sales, and at that time it was difficult enough to get an appointment with your client because they have a busy schedule, credentialing, can you gain access? And I'm sure the pandemic didn't do us any favors on getting that face time with the providers and the clients that they're trying to reach. But it's still very important. So I think I would encourage or give advice to look digitally and think about it not as a replacement of their reps and the efforts, but as a surround sound approach of how can they amplify the efforts of their reps. And maybe they can't get in once a month anymore, but they can get in every other month, and they can partner with somebody like GoodRx in order to reach those targeted audiences, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's a pushed email campaign, whether it's providing awareness solutions on our site so that they can have their brand messaging aligned with the content that consumers and providers are already reading. We know based on our data that providers are also reading the content. They're coming to the GoodRx site for coupons and for drug savings when they're in office, typically, when they're in the office with the patient. But on the nights and the weekends, in their free time, they're reading the GoodRx Health content to inform themselves about, conditions, medications. We even have content specific for providers. So I would encourage brands to look at, what is going to best align with their brand messaging, but where can they have that exclusive sponsorship of pages, content pages, or newsletters. And I'd like to add, something I'm really proud of, our newsletters on average have a 40% open rate. And so when we think about that, just even on the consumer side, what that means is somebody's come to our site, they've navigated through search, they've come to our site, they've opted in to receive information, whether it's about a drug, a condition, or any sort of the topic on our page. They are then opted into a newsletter, and typically with their personal email, and my personal inbox is not friendly, but when they see GoodRx, 40% of them are now clicking on and opening that newsletter on average. So we can even go above that with some of our topics. But what that means, again, is just aligning with that brand equity and that strength that GoodRx brings to the table. We have that trust with our users, and they typically associate us with savings. And so when they see GoodRx pop up in their inbox, they want to see what we have to offer. And so that brand can amplify the efforts of their reps by putting that brand messaging placement right in the newsletter and be at the forefront for both consumers and providers. We have options for both.
Yeah, I think what it goes to say is that this is these patients, this is highly contextually relevant information, right? So I think upwards of 60% of health users are actively researching symptoms or a diagnosis, right? They're not just coming there for fun, though we would love them to. And then on the drug page, right, more than 80% of them have a script in hand, or they've talked to their doctor about the medication. So these are extremely high intent, highly engaged users coming to contact in a contextually relevant setting. So, the 40% is super impressive, but I think it's unsurprising.
Audrey, you used the phrase next best action. I love that phrase. What exactly does it mean, and how do you take it into account for GoodRx Health?
Yeah, I'll give you an example that Audrey and I worked on that we're super excited about. So we created a solution, a cash buy down solution for a pharmaceutical manufacturer, where they were able to directly buy down the out-of-pocket cost for a patient. So that's what we would consider on the drug page, very bottom of funnel, high intent audience, right? But then we also created this health campaign or surround sound effect, top of the funnel, where people would land on any content. This is in the diabetes space, right? So they would land on any content related to diabetes. Large volume of patients, it's one of our highest trafficked conditions. And we then showed them a contextually relevant placement that drove them to the next best action, which was that cash buy down offer. And we're seeing tremendous success with that placement, right? It outperforms any traditional banner, if you will. And so we've created these kind of more native and custom units on our health pages, on our drug pages that really enable, we do a good job connecting the top of funnel to the bottom of funnel, wouldn't you say, Audrey? Through our solutions. And I think that's what sets us apart.
And no disrespect to our competition out there. We're all out here on a mission to help. But I think GoodRx is uniquely aligned in that we can do those actions on our site. I'm not aware of any other solution where you can go from reading content all the way through to actually having a script. Or
having a script, getting a coupon, going to the pharmacy, right? And for pharma to have visibility and data into that entire funnel. I think that's the other thing that sets us apart.
Great. Divya, Audrey, thank you so much. This has been really interesting, and please keep up the good work.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.